The escape. These are new words to practice. Say each word 10 times. So we have determined. Determined. Determined is when you really want something to happen, and so you do whatever you can to make it happen. Escape. Escape. We should be okay with escape. Discarded. Discarded. Discarded is when you throw away something or get rid of it. Borrowed. Borrowed. We should be okay with that. Retired. Retired. This is when you usually are reach a certain age, like you're 65 or something, and you stop working. Description. Description. That should be okay, where we describe what something's like. Conductor. Conductor. Conductor is usually it's referred to trains or buses or airplane type things, transportation, where it's the person who's in charge and organizes things. Passengers. Passengers. We should be okay with that. So pick one word and write it down. I'm going to do escaped. All right, the escape. Frederick Douglass was determined to escape. He had been a slave all of his life. He had never known his father. He had rarely seen his mother. He had worn nothing but a long shirt until he was 10 years old. He had starved while his white masters feasted. During one time of his life, he was beaten every day. Life had gotten a little better for him when he was sent to Baltimore. He was given more food. He was given better clothes. The wife of the man he worked for gave him a few lessons on how to read. Then she was told it was against the law to teach a slave to read. She stopped her lessons, but it did not stop Douglass. He was determined to learn how to read. In secret, he copied letters from a spelling book. He practiced writing the letters on his own. He picked up discarded newspapers. When something is discarded, it is thrown away. The newspapers were old and dirty, but still, Douglass tried to read them. In 1838, Douglass borrowed a set of seamen's papers. The papers were from a free retired black sailor. At that time, free blacks had to carry papers. Otherwise, they would be arrested as runaway slaves. It was the law. The retired sailor's name and description were on the papers. The name and description did not match Douglass. Still, he was determined to try to escape. Douglass dressed like a sailor. He jumped on a train just as it was pulling out of the station. He told the conductor that he had not had time to buy his ticket. The car for black passengers was very crowded. The conductor was in a hurry. He asked for Douglass's papers. Douglass boldly showed him the borrowed sailor's papers. The conductor barely looked at them. He gave Douglass a ticket so he could get to the other passengers. After his escape, Douglass wrote a book about his life. He spoke against slavery. He started his own newspaper. He was a great American. All right, our questions. When did Douglass escape? So Douglass escaped in 1838. The sailor Douglass borrowed the papers was retired. What does this mean? The sailor was free. The sailor no longer worked as a seaman. The sailor could not be arrested as a runaway slave. The sailor did not have to sit in the car for black passengers. He no longer worked as a seaman. 3. The story is mainly about being a slave, a great American, learning how to read, papers slaves carried. So which one do you think? Should be B, a great American. It's about Frederick Douglass. All right, he was a great American, is where it's written. All right, what is most probably the main reason it was against the law to teach slaves to read? Slaves would want books. Slaves could find their fathers. Slaves would read instead of work. Slaves could more easily find out what was going on and let others know. It would be D. If you do not learn things, you cannot understand what is going on and how you are treated poorly or whatnot, which is really one reason why it's really good to get an education. Think about how the word discarded relates to kept. What words relate in the same way? So discarded is when you throw away something, and kept is when it's keep. So old, dirty, train ticket, law, arrested, starved, feasted. So these are also our opposites. So starved is when you have no food, and feasted is when you have lots and lots of food.